not long after we got off the air yesterday with all of you. There were 5 players that were not officially signed at that point and have since signed to make the class total at 21 signed letters of intent. I find it interesting that there are, at least according to 247 Sports, no early enrollees. That's kind of rare. Number 2 class in the Big 12, number 8 in the nation. So, Jason, running down those 5 players that Oklahoma was able to get under the wire on Wednesday.
Yeah, and that's an error on the 247. There are, and we can talk here. Yeah, that's not. There are some early enrollees, and we can talk.
I was surprised by that.
Yeah,
okay.
There's some of those, but yeah, as we mentioned last week, Mark, there was probably 6 or 7 guys that Oklahoma was in on and really kind of waiting a decision confirmation last Wednesday. 5 of the ones, I think that most of the ones that Oklahoma expected, and I kind of expected Oklahoma to secure those signatures, they did. So they had 2. Obviously, Gentry Williams is one that we knew of before we kind of came off the air last Wednesday. So that was obviously not a surprise. It's been really pro Oklahoma. Even Brent Venables said afterwards, after he had his press availability after the signing period, he basically said we would have had to done a lot of things wrong, a lot of things to screw up that. So I think he was pretty strong to Oklahoma regardless. So that obviously that one was not a surprise, but really somebody that Oklahoma, I think, desperately wanted, desperately needed in the back end of that defense. So so the 4 other ones, 2 from California and 2 from Florida. Grayson Halton is the defensive line guy, like 6'3", 275 from. He's out of California. He was a Oregon commit. With a changing of the coaching staff at Oregon, Oklahoma was able to get in there and then secured his signature. Number 35 ranked defensive lineman in the country. Really good interior defensive lineman for Oklahoma. Javonte Henry is another kid from California. He is an edge guy. Previously committed to Michigan. Again, kind of the same situation with some of the changes on the specifically on the defensive side of the ball for Michigan allowed Oklahoma to kind of get in there. So they've got 2 real flips, from that perspective. And then R. Mason Thomas he's a 3-star guy from Florida. He's kind of hovered in that 3 to 4-star period. So he's going to be another edge guy right behind Henry, interestingly enough, just in terms of overall ranking as an edge guy. Henry was number 33. Mason Thomas was number 34 in the country. Like I said, he's a guy that kind of hovered between a 3 and a 4. If you look at the composite, he's a 3, but overall, I think he was a 4-star guy. He was a commitment to Iowa State. Oklahoma got that flip late. So, and then Jamarian Hurt is the other guy. He's a little bit of a more of a raw kid, an athlete. Probably is going to be more a receiver. I think is where he probably will land at Oklahoma. Number 28th ranked athlete in the country, a 3-star guy as well. So, with those additions, Mark, those 5 guys, Oklahoma went up to number 8 overall in the 2022 247 rankings, which obviously we've talked about that with everything that happened with Riley. Oklahoma at one point was ranked 21. So to get to 21 to number 8, and really had one of the best actual late signing periods classes here. That obviously most of these kids are signed early on in the early period now. So this is one of the better one of the better classes that Oklahoma's had here late, and overall it's one of the better classes that they've had over the last few years. Coming in like I said, number 8 overall, best class that they've had since 2019. So in a time where absolutely is needed. So it's pretty much over. I think there's one and there's a lot of comments about this. There's one kid, Labias Overton, who is one of the best defensive lineman recruits in the country, was a 2023 kid. He has reclassified to 2022. It really looks like A&M's probably the team to beat here. They're
Surprise,
very,
surprise.
yeah. They are very very in on him. So it looks like Oklahoma's still in the mix here. I think he's within their top three, top four. So I think there's a couple of angles that's interesting. Overton's dad actually played offensive line at Oklahoma in the 90s, early 90s, but his dad is really big on in the A&M side. I think he works in College Station or with the A&M athletic department. So you take that for whatever you will. But so he's a guy that Oklahoma is in on, and really a little bit of a surprise here. And then the only other one, Mark, is we've talked a little bit about this kid as well, Josh Connerly. He's a 5-star offensive lineman. He's one of those kids that's probably going to be well into February, could be March, April timeframe before he makes a decision. So obviously he's going to be a late, obviously not going to be an early enrollee. So I think that's a kid that Oklahoma probably. I mean, I think they would still take, but it's something that is part of that consideration. Won't wait for won't be in here for a while. So and a couple of the kids, Mark, that you had talked about, from an early enrollee perspective. Gentry Williams will be a guy that's in there early. Javonte Barnes from a running back, he's in early. And then there's quite a few other ones. A lot of the linebackers, Jaron Kane and Kobe McKenzie, a lot. So there's a decent amount of the kids that are actually have actually came in early. So that'll, when we start talking about some of those position previews, I think those are some of the things that we'll begin to talk about, just in terms of how they'll be able to integrate themselves. I think one of the big ones is Javonte Barnes being able to be in here in the spring with a running back room that's fairly wide open, with Kennedy Brooks leaving. Obviously, he was the main ball carrier last year with Eric Gray getting a little bit of time, and then Marcus Major as well. But I think that will be really a big benefit for him, along with the 10 transfers that Oklahoma has had. There's a couple of them that probably won't be in until the summer, but a good majority of those will be here in the spring for Oklahoma fans to get a good look at come spring game time.